One thing you may notice when you go to the United Kingdom is the huge number of dialects and accents that you'll hear. The United Kingdom's quite a small country, geographically speaking, has a population of 60 million people. But the huge number of dialects and accents is something that many people aren't prepared for. So even if your English is extremely good, be prepared to arrive and not understand anything. Don't worry, it happens, and you will start to pick it up after a while. The first kind of English that most people become aware of is either general American English or something called received pronunciation, which people call an English accent or a British accent. Actually, received pronunciation is just a very posh way of speaking English. To give you an example, you can say something like, "My father's car is a Jaguar," or "I bought a book." So you have these long sounds. That's quite easy to understand, but as you travel further north in the country, you'll find that it's slightly more complicated. If you go to Liverpool, for example, in Liverpool, they speak from the front of the mouth. I'll give you an example of how it sounds. So, for example, in Liverpool, that's the way they talk. It sounds more like that. As we move across towards Birmingham, where the vowel sounds are very long, be prepared to hear a sentence like, "I don't find the conversation stimulating enough." If you travel into Scotland, you'll notice the accent changes again. I have a standard Scottish accent, but you will hear regional dialects, for example, in Glasgow, which is a very difficult dialect to understand. And in Edinburgh, they have a very melodic way of speaking. So, for example, their voices might go up and down a lot when they're talking. One feature in London you might hear is Cockney. This is a word that's quite often used. It refers usually to the style of speaking heard in the east end of London. Now, Cockney is quite interesting because they have a feature called Cockney rhyming slang. What Cockney rhyming slang is they substitute words for other words. Let me give you an example. If you say, "I picked up the dog," what does that mean? Well, literally, it means I picked up the dog. But actually, in Cockney rhyming slang, it means I picked up the telephone. Dog, telephone, what does that? How do we see any difference between those two words? Well, what happens is dog comes from dog and bone, which means telephone. So I picked up the dog means I picked up the phone. Another example would be the expression apples and pears, which means stairs. Apples and pears, stairs. So, the telephone is lying on the stairs, would be the dog is lying on the apples and pears. Simple.